I was in the UK, I passed through London briefly, and even though I had a limited amount of time, one thing I was absolutely adamant I wanted to do was find 2 blue plaques that I had just not seen on previous trips to London. And those belong to Ronald Firbank and Quentin Crisp. Here is Ronald Firbank's blue plaque. It's at a former residence of his in Mayfair. You can see at the bottom now it's a pharmacy, but there's the blue plaque right there. This was very exciting for me just because I've talked about Ronald Firbank on my channel a few times before. He's just one of my favorite authors of all time, incredibly underrated. So it was really exciting for me to take a few minutes to go and see this. Then for Quentin Crisp, I went down to Chelsea to his former address on Beaufort Street, where he lived for just over 40 years before moving to New York City for the last part of his life. And so incidentally, this part of Chelsea is not particularly close to any public transportation, so it was a bit of a trek for me to get down here. But ultimately I did, and went to the address, and lo and behold, much to my shock, there is no blue plaque here. I double-checked the address, triple-checked the address, and I Googled it. And it turns out that this is actually not just an oversight. This was actually a decision that was made a number of years ago by the committee that decides on blue plaques. And they came to the conclusion that they questioned Quentin Crisp's cultural significance and therefore denied giving him a blue plaque. My own feelings about this aside, I find this to be a genuinely shocking decision. That for someone as niche as Ronald Firbank, who no one in the entire world except for me and 2 other cigarettes have ever even heard of, he gets a plaque, but Quentin Crisp doesn't? I find that so surprising. And I mean, I guess there might be a slight discrepancy here. Quentin might have a slightly larger legacy in the US than he does in the UK. I don't really know. I would find that to be a little surprising though, if that's true. I'm just thinking in the US, if you were to ask people to name, the top 10 most culturally influential people, queer people from England, I would think Quentin Crisp would be in a lot of people's top 10, if not their top 5. I guess one thing I'm wondering is I know that after he moved to New York City for the last part of his life, he spoke very highly of America in general, but New York City in particular, and he often would contrast his positive experiences in New York with his negative experiences in London and in England more broadly. I wonder if that maybe has something to do with it, but even that, I found this to be really shocking and just really disappointing, frankly. But I still got to go here to Beaufort Street and see the residence, so at least I got to do that. So that was pretty cool, I guess.